Hello, and welcome to Web Writing for Healthcare 101, The Basics. Whether you're new to writing copy for the healthcare industry or just looking for a quick refresher, you'll walk away with some valuable information. Let's get started. Before we begin talking about the most effective ways to write for the web, let's take some time to look at how people read online and consider why they come to our websites in the first place. First, what motivates us to go online? A recent consumer survey identified these top 5 reasons Americans go online. Probably no big surprises. We're getting on the internet to explore new subjects, access products and services and make purchases, find locations when walking or driving around, choose entertainment when and where we want it, and connect with family and friends. That's a pretty diverse array of activities, but one thing ties them all together. They're all action-oriented. In each case, we're going online because we want to solve a problem or complete a specific task. As user experience expert Jerry McGovern says, when it comes to developing content for your website, one of the most important things to remember is nobody cares about information for its own sake. The customer has a task they want to complete, a problem they want to solve. That's just as true with hospital or healthcare websites as it is with any other business or organization. Your users need to choose a pediatrician for their new baby. They want to walk without knee pain. They're looking for a job. They want to pay their hospital bill. When they land on your website, they've already have a specific task in mind. It's our job as web writers to help them accomplish that task by clearly communicating the information they're looking for. What type of health information are users looking for online? Our most recent data comes from a study by Pew Research Center. They found that 72% of US adults who use the internet had looked online for health information in the past year. They looked mostly for information about specific conditions or treatments. Other topics included weight loss, medical test results, caregiving, and pregnancy and childbirth information. Another study, which was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, found that about 1 in 4 people look up reviews of doctors online. The findings were based on a 2012 survey and, as we all know, awareness and use of online reviews has definitely grown since then. So what about when those users land on our pages? What do they see? How do they consume the information we give them? Studies show us that people don't read web pages the same way they read a print publication. That's because when we're online, we're task-oriented. We scan the screen looking for the information that's relevant to us or answers our question. On the desktop, that means we first look at headings and maybe the first line of paragraphs. Then, we track down the left side of the page in a classic F pattern. But on mobile devices, the screens are so small, we go right for the center. We don't need to sweep back and forth or up and down. When we're done with one screen, we scroll or swipe to move on. It's important to think about how your content appears on mobile devices because they're a growing segment of your web traffic. In April 2015, Pew Research Center found that about 62% of smartphone owners have used their phone to get information about a health condition. But know that most of the time, the majority of your content isn't going to get read. Usability expert Jacob Nielsen says that on average, users have time to read at most 28% of the words during an average visit. 20% is more likely, but that's okay. When you follow our steps for great writing for the web, you'll help your users find that 20% of content that they're most interested in, the content that helps them accomplish the task that brought them to your website in the first place. Best practice for web writing really only includes 3 major items. Keep it simple and scannable, focus on the user, and make it easy to take action. Sounds easy, but they all take thought, effort, and practice to do well. Let's start with keeping your writing simple and easy to scan. Simple, concise writing benefits everyone, including people reading on their smartphones and those who use screen readers or other assistive devices. To keep your writing simple, get to the point. Don't bury the lead, as they say in the news industry. Instead, put the most important information first, where your readers are more likely to see it. Use the words that your audience, patients, and families use. When you do need to use medical jargon or other technical terms, abbreviations or acronyms, take time to explain them. Use active verbs and an active voice to keep readers engaged, and eliminate rot, content that's redundant, outdated, or trivial. And by trivial, we mean not important to your primary audience. Simplicity helps everyone, but it's especially important for your users with weak health literacy, and there are a lot of them. Only about 1 in 10 adults is considered proficient when it comes to health literacy. That percentage is even lower among older adults, those who are 65 and above. And even people with strong literacy skills can face challenges obtaining, processing, and understanding health information when they're facing a serious illness, unfamiliar with medical terms, or trying to interpret information in order to make a healthcare decision. Patients from all levels of health literacy depend on the internet to help them make decisions about their healthcare. That means if we want the majority of our website visitors to understand us, we need to avoid medical jargon, speak plainly, and explain any healthcare-specific technical terms and acronyms. As healthcare writers, we encounter medical jargon and academic language all the time. That's because we rely on doctors to share their subject matter expertise. It's our job to learn their language and simplify it for a patient audience on the web. Here's one example from a recent project here at Geonetric. The phrases from the column on the left all come from a cardiovascular service line section we rewrote for a client. You'll see that we replaced medical phrases to more familiar language, saying blood disorders instead of hematological disorders, for example. We also simplified copy by using more concise and conversational phrases, for example, saying doesn't use instead of does not require use of. Keep your text clear, concise, straightforward, and lively by using the active voice as much as possible. Let's do a quick grammar review. With the active voice, the subject performs an action, the nurse called the patient. Here, the nurse is the subject, and the nurse is doing something. She's calling the patient. On the flip side, with a passive voice, the subject is acted upon by the verb. The patient was called by the nurse. Here, patient is the subject, but the subject isn't doing anything. The subject is just receiving the action, the call. In this case, the meaning of the passive voice is clear, but the passive voice can often be vague or awkward. It's also wordy. Switching to an active voice can help you tighten up your writing. Passive voice is often used in scientific and academic writing, so it's not too surprising that it creeps into healthcare websites. After writing your page, look for sentences that include forms of the verb be. For instance, am, are, is, was, were, or has been, along with the past participle, the verb form that typically ends with ed. Then try to rewrite the sentence using an active verb. Here's how you might rewrite this copy using an active voice. Good web copy has a lot in common with good news writing. It gets to the point quickly by using the inverted pyramid. With this communication style, you start with a concise summary of the most important information, then provide supporting details below in order of importance. Let's look at an example of how this could work in a healthcare service line page. This is a page about thyroid cancer treatment. We lead the page with the most important thing we want our audience, prospective patients, and their families to know. It's likely that their cancer can be treated successfully, and this hospital offers expert, multidisciplinary care to help achieve the best possible outcome. You can also think of this as the conclusion you want your readers to come to after they've read the rest of the page. Then, underneath, you'll see the information that supports that conclusion in order of importance. Details about how the multidisciplinary team works, information about specific treatments offered, and an explanation of rehabilitation programs and follow-up care. Simplicity on the web is about more than just words. It's also about format or structure. Because we know that people go online to find specific information, we want to make it easy for them to find what they're looking for. As a writer, you can do that by using a page structure that supports scanning or skimming. To do that, cover just one topic per page, keep your sentences and your paragraphs short, use a bulleted and numbered list to break out a series of information, and include straightforward headlines and subheads that tell your reader what type of information they can expect to read. Let's say you or a member of your family was recently diagnosed with low vision, and you're looking for a provider who can help you make the most of your remaining vision and find new ways of performing everyday tasks independently. What you see here is a page that we ended up rewriting as part of a large content development project for a client. Right now, it's mostly a series of gray blocks of text. The headline stands out, so I know what service I'm reading about, but I really have to sit down and read line by line to discover the topics on this page. Now, let's look at how we make it easier for users to scan the page and find these topics more quickly. On the right is the new content we created for this client. There's not much new information, it's just broken into smaller chunks based on those subtopics we identified earlier. We added subheads so the user can quickly see what information is covered on this page and zero in on what's most important to them. We kept the sentences and paragraphs short, in part by breaking out lists of symptoms and conditions into bulleted lists. Finally, we moved the information about the need to first see a doctor for an eye evaluation into a call-out box, so it stood out more clearly. We also added a link to the client's list of ophthalmologists to make it easy for the user to find a doctor within this health system. If you read through the copy, you'll notice we shifted from a passive voice to an active one. We also began directly addressing the user, using the word you instead of using the third person. And that's part of our second step, focusing on the user. Start by defining who your audience is. In most cases, if you're writing for a hospital or healthcare website, your primary audience is patients and their families. But there may be some sections of your site that are aimed at other groups. The audience for your career section, for example, is job seekers. Once you've identified the audience for the page or section you're writing, take a minute to visualize them and consider, what does your user want to know? What questions might they be seeking answers for? How will your service or product make your user's life better or easier? What's in it for them? What would make them want to choose you instead of the clinic down the street? And what's the next action users should take after reading this page? Do you want them to make an appointment, sign up for a screening, register for a class? What's the end goal that you and they are moving toward? Keep the answers to these questions in mind as you begin writing the text for your page. This page isn't for you or your organization, it's for your users, so speak to them, not at them, as if you're having a conversation. If a patient or family member were to walk into your office, call you on the phone, or send you a text, you would address them directly. You'd use the word you instead of patient. Do the same thing in your web page writing. Write to the one person who's reading your web page, not to a nameless, faceless crowd. That's one of the biggest ways you can make your web page text warm and conversational. Another is write like you talk. That means using all those techniques we spoke about earlier for keeping it simple, using the active voice, writing short sentences, using contractions, and other everyday words. Remember that in some cases you're writing for people who are going through a difficult time. Be sensitive to their concerns, avoid labeling them. Take a cue from the American Diabetes Association. In 2016, they stopped using the word diabetic to refer to people with diabetes because they wanted to convey that the disease does not define people and steer clear of negative phrasing like suffering from diabetes. Try affected by diabetes instead. Anticipate your users' questions or concerns and address them in your writing. And finally, focus on the benefits of your services or facilities, not the features. Your web pages shouldn't focus on what you offer. It should focus on how your users can benefit from what you offer. Let's look at an example of what it looks like when we focus on benefits, not features. Imagine the patient asking you, what does that mean for me, until you get to a tangible benefit. So in our example here, we say, we offer minimally invasive total knee replacement. Well, what does that mean for me? The surgeon doesn't have to cut as much of the tissue around your knee. And keep asking yourself that question. What does that mean for me? You'll experience less pain and scarring, and you'll recover faster. A user-centered way to write this is, when surgery is your best option, choose a minimally invasive knee replacement procedure at Benefit Health System. Your expert surgeons use a small incision affecting less tissue around your knee so you experience less pain and scarring. That means you'll enjoy a quicker recovery and get back to the activities you love sooner. Everything about this content centers on the user, from the active verbs like choose, use, experience, and enjoy, to the use of your to describe the expert surgeons, because they're key members of the reader's healthcare team. And you'll notice that we didn't use the word cut anywhere. Even if we know that's what happens, nobody wants to read that word when they're thinking about getting care. That's part of being sensitive to your users. Finally, make it easy to take action. You publish this web page for a reason, right? You want your user to do something after reading the page, to sign up for a class or make an appointment, for example. On every page, you should include a single, strong call to action that directs the user on what to do next and prompts an immediate response. The best calls to action are clear and concise, relevant to the page and the audience for that page, and prominently displayed, even on mobile, so that the audience sees the call to action when they're scanning the page. Finally, whenever possible, choose a call to action that you can track. That helps you measure the effectiveness of your page, so you can make adjustments as needed to improve your site's performance. We covered a lot of ground over the last 20 minutes, so let's take a minute to review. Best practices for web writing really come down to these 3 steps. Keep it simple and scannable, focus on the user, and make it easy to take action. The content team at Geonetric has written thousands of pages of healthcare content, and these 3 concepts are at the heart of everything we deliver. Wish you could have a member of Geonetric's content team review a page of your site for free? Well, now you can. We are offering a free content checkup. Simply visit www.geonetric.com/checkup and submit a request. Depending on your organization's unique needs, you can use the consultation to get expert feedback and suggestions on a page of your current site copy, answer your top web copy questions, explore recommendations for improving conversions, user experience, and search engine optimization efforts, and so much more. And if you've enjoyed today's webinar, I hope you'll check out the next webinar in our series, which focuses on content and search engine optimization.